Uh, book news is coming, but right now I am about to buy The Marriage Game because that sounds really good. Oh, also, this is super embarrassing. It turns out that I already have it.
I hope you did not buy it twice.
No, because I clicked on the main page like before. You know how you can look up a book and then buy it from the main page. You don't have to go to the books page. So I clicked buy now, and it was like, our records show that you bought this already.
Nice.
This is amazing.
I mean, I guess the book of the news is that I need an intervention. I need an intervention.
You know what you should read. You know what you should read. You know what you should read.
It's time for What You Should Read, the podcast all about the titles you need. Join 3 book lovers and a guest as they cover all the best new titles to enjoy with your tea.
I have that, but I haven't read it yet.
Hi, I'm Julia.
I'm Rachael.
And I'm Kelly.
And this is What You Should Read,
the podcast where we should all over our books.
And happy Passover, everyone.
Yeah.
It's raining here today where I am, and it's the perfect weather for just curling up with a good book. And I think that's what everyone should be able to do on a day like today.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. It's also good napping weather.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So Kelly, in between naps, what are you reading this weekend?
Well, I actually am a little over a quarter of a way into Darling by Kay Ancrum, which we sort of guilted her into.
She's so nice. Thank you.
She really
Kayla.
is. It's amazing so far. I knew it would be, but I absolutely love it, and I'm not quite ready to say that I think it's better than The Wicker King and The Weight of Stars, both of which I absolutely loved. But I think it might be. I really think it might be. But either way, the absolute worst thing I can say about it is that it's just as good as the others. So that's pretty high praise because I love all of her books. Yeah.
I have like 4 or 5 arcs that I need to read before the end of April. So I'm going to do arc April, where I really focus on my arcs.
Same.
Yay.
Nice.
Rachael, what are you reading?
I am reading on my Kindle Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. And I love it so much.
So good, right?
It's so good. He is so funny, obviously. Yep. But like, seriously, I laugh out loud all the time reading this book. I get weird looks from Will. He's like, what are you reading? And I'm like, it's Trevor Noah's book. And also just, all the feels. And it's just incredible. I'm like 60% of the way through. I'll finish it today.
Oh, that's one of my favorite memoirs ever. Just so fantastic. Oh, well, I am reading The Marriage Game by Sara Desai because I have the dating plan, but I realized the second in the series. And I think you can read them standalone. Everyone says you can, but I don't want to. I want to read the first one first. So I got this from my library, and I am about 75 pages in, and it's really cute. It's a fluffy romance, rom-com, and it's about this woman who moves back to live with her family that owns this Indian restaurant. She had this relationship with this social media star that like went awry, and their breakup went viral because it was like so dramatic, and she lost her job because of it. So she like kind of comes home and has to start over. And she rents out the office, or her dad lets her use the office space above the restaurant to like start her own business. But he had already rented it to someone else and forgot to like tell that guy. And then, so they have to like share the office space, and they clash. But then also her dad didn't also tell her, and her dad had a heart attack as soon as she got home and is like in a medically induced coma. So he can't like fix any of this, by the way. I know. And so this all happens like right in the beginning. All these guys start coming because he put an online profile of her up on like Desai Match or something like that. And so all these men are like, hello, Layla, I'm here to be your new husband. And she's like, what? He's trying to, it's so funny. It's just really cute. I'm liking it. And then I also started a childhood favorite this morning, which I'll talk about, I think, when we talk about book news. So
yeah.
Book news is coming, but right now I am about to buy The Marriage Game because that sounds really good.
No, I wish they had it as an add-on on Book of the Month because like I'd like
Yeah.
it to match my Book of the Month copy, but maybe I'll get it on Kindle.
Yeah, you could probably get it at your library too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would actually love to know why oh, also this is super embarrassing. It turns out that I already have it.
I hope you did not buy it twice.
No, because I clicked on the main page like before, you know how you can look up
Yeah.
a book and then buy it from the main page, you don't have to go to the books page. So I clicked buy now and it was like, our records show that you bought this already.
Nice.
This is amazing.
I mean, I guess the book of the news is that I need an intervention. I need an intervention, like immediately. Also, God, to completely change the tone of the show,
Right.
There's actually two bits of book news, and I'm gonna, I guess, start with the good one. So Richard Wright, who wrote Native Son and a bunch of other things, he has a new book coming out towards the end of April, and it is about police brutality and a bunch of other things, which it was not published in his lifetime in novel form. And they found it and are going to release it, I think, April 20th. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, I have kind of complicated feelings about, it's called The Men Who Lived Underground, to give it a title. And they did release it as a short story, but they cut it like way down and removed almost all of it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's in a posthumous collection released in 1961 called Eight Men. And it was written in the same time period as Native Son and Black Boy. But they, like, this one was basically considered too much, so they didn't release it in its full form. Anyway, sorry. So I kind of have complicated feelings about this most of the time because of Harper Lee and Ghost Set a Watchman, which we found out about when that was announced too, and which was very exciting until it also came out that it was a book that she did not want published. And it was announced right after her sister, who was also her lawyer and kind of her guardian, had died. Like, I think within a couple weeks of Alice dying, it was like, oh, hey, we found this book. But this is definitely not the case here, because like his surviving family is definitely all over this. The audiobook will include his essay Memories of My Grandmother and an afterword by his grandson, who is a filmmaker named Malcolm Wright. So his family is, they're like, we want this to happen, we approve. Nobody's taking advantage of anybody.
I wonder why it wasn't published in his lifetime. Maybe he just wasn't quite ready to release it, or
I think that it was just like too much. And then even when you really, even when you cut it down, it was like, I'm trying to see, I'm skimming the article to make sure I'm not missing something here, but it's really exciting. And I do like the idea that even when authors we love die, we can still sometimes get books from them, which, assuming it's done above board and not taking advantage of an old lady with dementia.
Right.
Not to keep being mad about Harper Lee. And the other book news, which is not exactly breaking, we found out on Friday the 26th, but Beverly Cleary died. She was 104. I don't think I could overstate how beloved her books are and have been, for us, but also for pretty much everybody I've seen online. And also Larry McMurtry, who wrote Lonesome Dove and Last Picture Show, and my personal favorite, Terms of Endearment, also died. So not a great weekend.
And Jessica Walter.
Jessica Walter, yes, from Arrested Development and the meme that inspired our Good For Her episode.
Yeah. I'm so sad about Beverly Cleary. I've been reading all the posts from everyone on my feed about how much the Ramona Quimby books meant to everyone, boys and girls, like that's what's so nice about everything she wrote, and just like kids, like really related to not just Ramona, but Beezus and Henry Huggins, like all these characters that were just so real and wonderful. But then, do you guys remember that book, Dear Mr. Henshaw?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So they were talking about it on Pop Culture Happy Hour, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had, forgotten about this book, but that book, for me, even more so, I think, than the Ramona books, that was the book that I would go back to and read over and over. The copy was in the library. I don't think I had my own copy, but I do remember like reading it in the library more than once and I just found it on Kindle Unlimited. So if you want to revisit it, you can get it there. And I'm going to go buy a hard copy from my local bookstore soon. But I remember so much of it. Like I'm reading it, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this little poem he wrote, or it's just so cute. It's about this little boy who is writing to this author, Mr. Henshaw, about this book that he loves. And he's like, the kid is so kind of like a pest, kind of like Ramona, but also like really endearing. And Mr. Henshaw, you don't see his replies, but you gather from the subsequent letters that it's like he's kind of a curmudgeon. And but as they grow a friendship as the book goes on, Lee, the main character, his spelling gets better as the book goes on, his writing gets better because he wants to be a writer. And you see like what he's going through, his parents are getting divorced. It's just a great book. I remember loving it. So that was nice to go down memory lane with that book. And definitely she lived to be 104, and what an amazing career in life she had.
Yeah.
A great legacy. I reread Dear Mr. Henshaw a lot too. I love that book, but I probably reread the Ramona books a million times over.
Yeah. So great.
The best and worst thing I've seen is that I guess there's a Ramona statue in Portland, and people have been leaving like flowers and notes and things. And I feel like, honestly, Beverly Cleary and Judy Blume wrote these amazing, relatable kids who, weren't perfect and weren't, they weren't Charlie Bucket, like they were flawed and they had tempers, and I just
Yeah, exactly. One post I saw from a friend of mine said, like, this was the first book that made me feel okay about being a difficult kid. Because he had a lot of like felt bad about himself because he knew he was difficult, but he couldn't help himself, but then he read the Ramona books and he's like, I can still be loved, and I'm still lovable even though I'm difficult. I was like, oh, because like I loved Ramona, but I never related to her in that way. I was kind of like a really good, well-behaved child I was more of a Beezus, I think.
Were Beezus, yeah.
I was Beezus. But I do love Ramona, and actually Ramona, like, I think probably like for those of us that were Beezus, we love her because not that Rachael and Lenny were like really bad kids.
I was Ramona.
But you were Ramona. Yeah. Ramona. So it probably made us like think about our siblings like fondly too. So yeah.
Yeah.
You and Lenny getting into the ice cream. Oh my gosh. Total Ramonas, the both of you.
Yeah.
The pair of you.
We were. Sorry, I just lost in my train of thought. Okay.
I know.
I mean, book news was not great.
Yeah.
So we're doing our best.
Emotional. But now we're going to go into our segment, Recent Acquisitions, where we talk about the books we have recently bought, borrowed, or been given. So, Julia, what are your recent acquisitions?
I've been really good and I haven't bought anything. I did get Dear Mr. Henshaw on Kindle Unlimited, and I'll probably buy it soon. But yeah, I've been abstaining from buying and I've been trying to read my books.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a little bit of a slump earlier this week, but I think I'm getting back in the groove. So
Nice.
yeah.
How about you, Kelly?
Well, it's been almost a year of this, so you all know how I am. But I ended up getting the Ramona series on Kindle because they had a box set of all of them for $19. And I do have a physical copy of all of them, but it's not particularly good quality. I mean, it looks like the Scholastic editions that will fall apart as soon as you read past a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, I'll just do that. And then they had a little bundle of Dear Mr. Henshaw and its sequel, which I did not know about until they were like, oh, you can get this too. And I think one of them was $4 on Kindle and the other one was like $3 maybe. So that was good. So I got those. And I got a book called Mouthful of Forevers by Clementine Van Radius. Radics, I'm not sure. It's a poetry collection though.
Oh.
And my friend Kathy, you guys know Kathy, she read it as one of her 12 recommendations by 12 friends. And she said it was really, really good. And she was sending me like lines of poetry. And I was like, well, this all sounds amazing. So I got that, which I have not read yet, of course, but I will soon. And then the other book I got was Anna on the Edge by AJ Sass, which is about what happens when a non-binary kid gets involved with figure skating, which is a very, very gendered world. And how do you stay true to who you are when you have to basically look like a girl or look like a boy? There's no middle ground in figure
Anna
skating.
on the Edge.
Right.
I might buy that right now. That sounds really good. And I love books about sports.
Yeah, it does. It looks like really, really good. And there's another character who's trans. So I'm really excited for this one. So
who's the author?
AJ Sass.
Okay. I know that author.
I feel like they're also non-binary.
Yeah. I can't remember. I feel like there's something else I've either read or heard about from this author. Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm hoping to have read that by our next taping. So.
Is it middle grade? Oh, awesome. It's middle grade.
I think it is middle grade, yeah.
Oh, that sounds cute. Okay, great.
It does, yeah. Broke Julia's book buying, non-book buying streak.
You did.
I mean, I'm a problem.
You're the best.
You're the best.
Thank you, but I think both are true. I'm the best problem.
Yeah.
That's the cold intro. God damn
the
it,
best
Kelly.
problem.
Yes.
All right. So I also haven't bought anything, but I did go to the library yesterday and I got 2 books by Juliet Blackwell, who I've never read anything by her before, but the books caught my eye because they both are about Paris, and I'm like, I miss traveling and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, I looked them up on Goodreads and they had really good reviews. So I picked them up. I brought them to the librarian. She's like, oh, I love that author. So the books I got are The Paris Key and Letters from Paris. And they're sort of like, they're about women who are trying to figure their lives out and, learn things about their family and their past. They're not part of a series. They're just both are set in Paris, but she does have series. So when I talked to the librarian, she was like, I've read everything by her. She has some really good series. So when I look in the book, when it says also by this author, one of her series is called The Witchcraft Mysteries. And the other one is called The Haunted Home Renovation Mysteries. And I'm like, those both sound awesome.
I would like all of those.
Yeah, so a lot of potential. If I like this author, there's so much reading material. So
That's great. I love the covers. They look fun.
I know, they're so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything with Paris in the title, I swear.
Right?
I'm a sucker. Okay, well, we are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be doing our books we're excited about in April. So we'll be talking about the new April book releases that we think look cool and that we want to try to get to soon. So stick around and we will be right back.
You know what you should read.
And we are back. And now we are going to do our round robin of books that are coming out in April that we're excited about. We tend to do this like at the beginning of the year or just randomly at different times. But I think we're going to start doing this episode monthly where we just look at what's coming out in the upcoming month and just sort of fangirl out about how great it sounds. And we should do like a recap at the end of the month. Like, did you read any of these?
Yeah.
Or are they still on your pile?
Yeah.
So Rachael, I'll start with you. What's your first April pick?
Okay. So my first April pick is one that to me sounds like it might be a book of the month pick because it just sounds like one of the books that they would have as one of their picks. And not because I saw any spoilers or predictions. I haven't seen anyone talking about it. But the reason that I'm excited about it was because it was blurbed by Celeste Ng. But the book is called Gold Diggers, and the author is Sanjina Sadian, and it's coming out April 6th. And it's an Indian American magical realist coming of age story.
Wow.
So yeah, it sounds really good. It has different characters, but there's Neil. He is a floundering second generation teenager growing up in the Bush era Atlanta suburbs. But he doesn't like share the same drive as everyone around him. But his older sister is perfect and she's headed to Duke, and his parents have really high expectations. But mostly he just, kind of sounds like he's in love with his neighbor, Anita. But Anita, so this is where it gets a little bit magical realism, where Anita and her mom are like brewing an alchemical potion that harnesses the ambition of the jewelry's original owner. Like it uses stolen gold. And she like really wants to use it to get into Harvard. So this is like them as teenagers, right? And then it sort of skips forward 10 years.
Oh.
Yeah, it sounds so good. I'm really excited for. I'm definitely, if it's a book of the month pick, I will pick it for sure. If not, I'll just order it, online.
Yeah, that sounds so good.
That really does.
Oh, great pick. Okay, Kelly, what is your first pick?
Okay, my first pick it's cheating a little bit because it actually comes out on March 30th, but I know I won't be reading it until April, so I'm counting it. It's She's Too Pretty to Burn by Wendy Hurd. And it is a YA thriller that is based on The Picture of Dorian Gray.
What?
Oh.
Yes.
It's a retelling.
It's a retelling. And I have learned that I may not really like a bunch of retellings, but if you give me like a classic retelling, especially from something that we don't really see remade a lot or retold a lot, like, yes, I am here for it.
Yeah.
And it's also set in like the art scene, and it sounds so good, and I'm really excited for it. It's getting a bunch of buzz, so I guess decent chance it could be an add-on for book of the month, but probably not.
That sounds good.
So
Does sound good. Yeah.
So just as a wish list item, if we could get more like relatively rare things retold instead of like the 15th Romeo and Juliet, that would be really nice for me, and I would appreciate it.
Okay, my first pick is probably going to be a surprise because I don't normally read thrillers, but this one just sounds really, really good. And it's We Are Watching Eliza Bright by A.E. Osworth. And the reason I'm excited about this one is it's based on the Gamergate event that happened. Do you all remember that, with Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian and just all of these male gamers doxing female game makers, basically, who were talking about being harassed, and so they came after them, and it was really, really bad. But this story sounds a lot like Zoe Quinn, what she went through in real life. But so it really caught my attention. It says on Goodreads, the description says, Eliza Bright was living the dream as an elite video game coder at Fancy Dog Games when her private life suddenly became public. But is Eliza Bright a brilliant, self-taught coder bravely calling out the toxic masculinity and chauvinism that pervades her workplace and industry? Or is she a woman who needs to be destroyed to protect the sanctity of gaming culture? Well, it depends on who you ask. So basically, she reports an incident of workplace harassment that's quickly dismissed. And so she has to take her story public. And so she takes it to a journalist who blasts it across the internet. And so these male gamers and incels, of course, on places like Reddit and 4chan just come after her. She's doxxed. She gets fired from her job. And so like, there's this whole thing going on online where, you know, women are like, yeah, go girl. And then all these men are like really harassing her and coming after her. The thing about this book that really intrigues me is it's narrated by the Angry Male Collective. So I'm just like, what is this book? You know, this. And so like, she has to kind of go into hiding, it sounds like. And she finds this group called the Sixterhood, which sounds interesting, but there's like a cat and mouse game happening where she's actually being, you know, hunted by these awful people, and like something like there's a violent end. That's all I know. But so it is a thriller, it's suspense, but it has to do with like tech and a real life story that I'm interested in, just like what this author is going to do with it. And the fact that it's narrated by the men who are like acting poorly, like I'm just curious how that's going to work. So it does sound really intriguing to me. So that's We Are Watching Eliza Bright by A.E. Osworth.
Wow, that sounds wow.
Yeah. I know.
I think that's on NetGalley.
Is it?
Ooh, I'll have to look.
I'm double checking now, but I'm pretty sure I've seen it. It is.
I'll have to get it, see if I can get it, put it on ARC April, because I think it comes out later in April too, so I have time to read 13th. It. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's not that late, but
yeah. I mean, like, honestly, I only know that because I'm looking right at the NetGalley page. I feel like everything I want is out April 6th.
The funny thing is, when we decided we were going to do this monthly, I went back to our most anticipated for 2021, and most of mine were like April releases at the time.
Yeah.
Some of them have been pushed back though, so it's fine. But it was fun. I got to find new ones that I'm excited about too. All right, Kelly, I'll go to you first next. What's your next pick?
All right. Okay, speaking of men behaving badly, mine is the third in a series, You Love Me by Caroline Kepnes. It's the third in her series about Joe Goldberg, the world's most charming stalker. And it's also a Netflix series. I haven't watched it yet, but it's a really weird series, because if you haven't read it, he's not well. Like, he's definitely mentally ill, and he builds this like very intense love story for himself and this woman that he basically sees, and she's on a ground floor apartment, so he can basically spy on her all the time, and he does. And he also, in the first one, like, he does things like break into her apartment and like he figures out how to read her emails and her texts and stuff. And so he does these amazingly sweet things, but he knows, okay, well, this is what she likes. So if I do this, then she will love me. And it's just, you read it and you're like, oh, that's really sweet. And then you're like, oh, that's right. He's the worst, like the literal worst. And but we're on the third one now. I don't know how long she can keep it going,
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
but we're also on his third obsession with a different lady. So
Creepy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this one is a librarian, so hopefully she's smart and she doesn't fall for it, but
Never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, really excited.
Cool. Rachel, what is your second pick?
So my second pick, I had heard about it months ago and then kind of didn't really hear that much about it, forgot about it. And then Kelly, thank you, Kelly, sent me the link, said this is something you would like. So it's called Witches Steeped in Gold by Sienna Smart. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if it's wrong. And according to Goodreads, this is the first in a series, but I don't know how many books are supposed to be on it. But it is out April 20th, and it is a Jamaican-inspired fantasy, and it's a debut. It's about two enemy witches who must enter into a deadly alliance to take down a common enemy. And it's described as having the twisted cat and mouse of Killing Eve with the richly imagined fantasy world of Ember in the Ashes or Furyborn. But I've never seen or read any of those things, but they sound great.
This sounds like a Rachel book.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. I don't know if it's YA or not. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Fantasy series.
Yeah. And I love witches, so.
Cool. That sounds great. My next pick is a retelling. Yay. We just did our retellings episode. And then I found out about this one, which sounds really exciting. It is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, and it's called Malice by Heather Walter. And it's queer and it's YA. And it says a princess isn't supposed to fall for an evil sorceress, but in this darkly magical retelling of Sleeping Beauty, true love is more than a simple fairy tale.
Whoa.
So basically, it sounds like she and Maleficent have a love story, which is really interesting. So basically it says, once upon a time, there was a wicked fairy who, in an act of vengeance, cursed a line of princesses to die, a curse that could only be broken by true love's kiss. You've heard this before, haven't you? The handsome prince, the happily ever after? Utter nonsense. Let me tell you, no one in Briar actually cares about what happens to its princesses, not the way they care about their jewels and elaborate parties and charm-granting elixirs. I thought I didn't care either until I met her. Princess Aurora, the last heir to Briar's throne, kind, gracious, the future queen her realm needs, the one who isn't bothered that I am, Alice, the dark grace, abhorred and feared for the mysterious dark magic that runs in my veins. Humiliated and shamed by the same nobles who pay me to bottle hexes and then brand me a monster. Aurora says I should be proud of my gifts, that she cares for me, even though it was a power like mine that was responsible for her curse. So I think it's like the evil fairy, evil, quote unquote, tries to reverse the curse somehow. But yeah, it sounds so good. It sounds like such a different take. And I like that the premise is that it's a line of princesses. So I don't know if that means that this happened like generations upon generations. That's what it sounds like. But that they always die before a certain age. But yeah, I'm excited about this one.
Wow.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I would definitely read that.
Same.
All right. Rachel, back to you. What's your next pick?
So my next pick is a nonfiction, and it is called The Next Everest, Surviving the Mountain's Deadliest Day and Finding Resilience to Climb Again. So the author is Jim Davidson. He was hiking Mount Everest on April 25th, 2015, when Nepal was hit with their biggest earthquake like in history, which caused a huge avalanche. It killed almost 9,000 people. And it was like the deadliest day in the history of Mount Everest. So 18 of the people that died were once climbing the mountain, which is yeah. And he and his team were stranded on the mountain for 2 days before they were rescued by helicopter. So it really shook him, and he wasn't sure he could like go back and try again, but he decided to return in 2017 in order to try to reach the summit. And so it's definitely sounds like, I mean, it's an adventure book, which is definitely in my wheelhouse, but it also sounds like he's going to be going through a lot of like, you know, having to conquer fears and, you know, face this place that almost killed him. And I'm just like, it sounds so thrilling, and it's a true story. So I'm really interested.
Wow. That does sound good. You've read John Krakauer's books, right?
I haven't. No.
Oh, you have to read Into Thin Air. It's so good. Yeah.
I think I have it.
Oh my gosh, you'd love it.
Maybe. Or I almost bought it or something.
Oh, so good. Kelly, what is your next pick?
Okay. I've definitely talked about this one before, but it's The Cost of Knowing by Brittany Morris. She wrote Slay, which I love. And with this one, Alan Rufus, who's the main character, he can see the future. And it's sort of a weird gift, because if he touches, say, his car, he will see, you know, at some point this car is going to end up totaled. Wow. And if he touches a person, he will get like a quick glimpse of their future. Wow. You know, like he might see, oh, like here's my girlfriend and we're about to break up. Or, you know, but he won't know what led up to it or exactly when.
Wow.
And then he ends up touching his, I'm not sure if he touched his brother or if he touched a picture of his brother, but he sees that his brother is going to die and that it will be soon.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But again, like he doesn't know when or how.
Right.
And it's, if you know this, can you change it? And how do you change it if you don't know like what exactly you need to change?
Right.
And you don't know how long, right?
You don't know how long. I think he can tell it's going to be sometime soon. But I mean, like based on how based on how his brother looks, like he looks recognizable to how he looks now. But I mean, that also, you know, if you're a teenager, that could really be, depending on the age of the teenager, like that could be tomorrow, or it could even be like a year or two.
Right.
Depending on, you know,
but I mean, if you're an adult, it would be even harder to know, right? Because we don't change as much in our adult years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he knows that's even more anxiety inducing. It's like he's still a teenager when he dies.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's out April 6th, and I am so excited for that one.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting to say when mine come out. Sorry.
I'm really only doing it because I wrote it down.
Okay.
But I don't think I did for my other two. So
okay. Well, this next book comes out April 27th, and it's called Dial A for Aunties. Have you heard of this one?
No.
So it's by Jessie Q. Sutanto. They are a debut author. And so I'm almost wondering, this might be a book of the month pick, because it would be a good rom-com, and it's a debut. And I know they always like to have a debut on there, but it sounds kind of like Crazy Rich Asians meets a murder mystery. So it's a hilariously quirky novel that is equal parts murder mystery, rom-com, and a celebration of mothers and daughters, as well as a deep dive into Chinese Indonesian culture by debut author Jessie Q. Sutanto. I just think everything about that, I'm like, check.
Yes.
Check. So it has accidental murder, 2,000 wedding guests, 3 maybe cursed generations, and then 4 meddling Asian aunties to the rescue.
Nice.
So apparently this woman ends up accidentally killing her blind date, and her mom and her aunties help get rid of the body. But that's more challenging than they anticipated. And like meanwhile they're at this like over the top wedding at an island resort. So it just sounds like there's going to be chaos and opulence, like in Kevin Kwan's books. It just sounds really fun and a little dark, a little quirky, and a lot of fun. So I'm really excited about that. Out April 27th. That's Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Sutanto.
Nice. That sounds good.
All right, Rachel.
I bet we're watching Eliza Bright will be a book of the month too.
I feel like a couple of mine that I've picked could be potentially book of the month. So we'll see. I guess we'll find out in a couple of days. Use our code What You Should Read, all one word, if you want to get one of these for under $10. Rachel, what's your next pick?
So my next pick, this is the last one that I had written down, and it might be I bet one of you might have it, because I think one of our guests or somebody has talked about it on the podcast before. It might have been in our anticipated for the year, but I didn't realize when it was coming out, and it's coming out April 27th. It's called The End of Men by Christina.
Yes.
I'm excited.
It's kind of further down on my list, but I'm really, I might have had this on my list. I can't remember, but it's definitely, I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So it is about a virus that wipes out the male population. Only men are affected by it. And it's set in the near future, 2025. The virus breaks out in Scotland. And Dr. Amanda McLean reports the phenomenon. When she reports this phenomenon, saying there's this new virus and it's only killing men, she's sort of mocked and dismissed as a hysterical, woman.
Yeah.
But by the time people take her seriously, it's too late. The virus has become a global pandemic, and of course, a political one, as global pandemics, we have learned, tend to do. It just sounds so like, basically it follows the women who are left behind to deal with the consequences at the end. Right. There's the doctor, there's a social historian, an intelligence analyst, a scientist trying to come up with a vaccine. And yeah, it sounds so interesting.
It sounds a lot like The Power, like gives me that vibes too.
Yeah.
Like maybe a cross between The Power and what was that Stephen King book where all the women were falling all the women were falling asleep and going to this other world. I'm definitely gonna read that one. Cool.
Who is that by?
Christina Sweeney Baird. Hyphenated name.
Oh, I want that one.
There's so many books to read.
Too many.
Kelly, what's your next pick?
Okay, so my next one is Astrid Sees All by Natalie Standiford. It is her adult debut. She's written a bunch of young adult and middle grade. I love everything she has written, so I'm really excited for this one. It is set in the 1980s club scene in New York City, and the main character, her name is Phoebe, and her father has recently died, and her mom wants her to stay in Baltimore, which is where they live, but she's like, I can't stay here and feel this. I have to go. So she heads back to New York, earns her living telling fortunes as Astrid the Star Girl, which I love. And it is billed as what it's like to, okay, I have no idea what that is. I was trying so hard to write everything down, and I'm like, that just looks like a line.
You write freehand your notes for the podcast? I'm
do.
impressed. Wow.
I mean, don't be impressed because I can't read my own writing. Oh no. Okay. It is billed as what it's like to be a young woman searching for an identity. But it's also about her and her best friend, and they get into this big, big fight, like the kind of fight that your friendship probably will not recover from. So she also has to figure out how to like undo all of that. But again, 80s club scene New York. So it sounds so good and kind of decadent and just really, really fun. And I am here for all of it because everything she writes has been amazing.
I saw something about that on a list somewhere, and it did sound, it didn't make my top 5, but it does sound good.
Yeah, huh. I'm really excited. Also, she's in a band called Tiger Beat.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Nice.
Not related to the book, but an awesome fact anyway.
Well, my next pick is The Happiest Girl in the World by Alena Dillon. And it's a contemporary fiction. It comes out April 20th. And it's a sports book. So this says, and I love the Olympics. So as soon as I read the description, I was like, yes, I want to read this. So it says, from the acclaimed author of Mercy House, which I've never read. I don't know if either of you have. Comes a gripping new novel about a young woman's dreams of Olympic gymnastics gold and what it takes to reach the top. Yeah, Rachael. So gymnastics.
Yes.
So it says, for Sara Wheeler, the Olympics is the reason for everything. It's why she trains 30 hours a week, starves herself to under 100 pounds, and pops Advil like Tic Tacs. For her mother, Charlene, hungry for glory she never had, it's why she rises before dawn to drive Sara to practice in a different state, and why the family scrimps, saves, and fractures. It's why when Sara's best friend reports the gymnastics doctor to the authority who selects the Olympic team, Sara denies what she knows about his treatments, thus preserving favor. Their friendship shatters, but Sara protected her dream, didn't she? And so basically she then doubles down and she's like, okay, well, now I have to win Olympic gold because I betrayed my friend, and it won't be worth it unless I win. So she gets even more like obsessive about it, and she's not doing it though anymore for the love of the game. She's doing it because of the guilt. And I mean, it sounds good. It sounds sad. But it's a lot of like topics that I'm interested in reading about. And yeah, like I said, I love books about sports. So I'm excited about this one. I've never read this author. It would be a new author for me, as most of these would actually. Some of them are debuts, but it sounds like she has another book too. So if I like this one, maybe I'll have a new author to love. Yeah. All right. Well, those are some great picks. So let's check back in at the end of April, beginning of May, and see which ones we read.
Yeah.
And that's our show. The April picks should be up on Book of the Month any day now, hopefully by the time this drops. You can get your first box for $9.99 with the promo code WhatYouShouldRead, all one word. We don't know, obviously, if any of our picks will make the cut, but if they do, we recommend them.
Yep. And be sure to follow us on social media at WYSR_podcast on Instagram and on Twitter. Check out our Goodreads. I just got all caught up over this weekend. So our Goodreads is caught up. We have shelves for each episode. So if you're listening to an episode and you want to find the books on Goodreads, just go to our shelves. We also have an email. You can email us at whatyoushouldreadpodcast@gmail.com. Please give us a rating and a review wherever you subscribe to our podcast. And yeah.
And don't forget that our current book club pick is Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. So that's what we're reading for our April 11th episode. And we will be joined by a very special guest. So if you want to read along with us, be sure to pick that up soon. I need to pick that one up soon myself.
Yes.
And now you know what you should read.
You're welcome.
You know what you should read. You know what you should read. You know what you should read.
It's time for What You Should Read, the podcast all about the titles you need. Join 3 book lovers and a guest as they cover all the best new titles to enjoy with your tea.